Welcome to the Homeless Conservative. I am Blake Fisher. Thanks for joining me. This is my friend Kris, and we are going to pretend, because here's a little background on me and Kris. Kris and I have known each other for a very long time, and we were in a band together in our 20s, and so we've spent a lot of time together, and we were old school Tim Russert fans. And
Jimmy.
when we were, Tim Russert,
Go Bills.
Rest in peace. Never been anyone like him since. And so we were on the road all the time. And so we would not get to, this is also pre the internet being a thing where you could just like watch a video. YouTube did not exist. YouTube
downloading
was not a thing.
Meet the Press on Sunday night on our laptop, uploading it to our iPod.
Our iPod video that we had.
Classic.
So we would watch.
Which wasn't called Classic. It was just called iPod.
Just called an iPod video. And we would watch, one of us would download Meet the Press and we'd pass it around. And we were watching video podcast in like 2004. So we're old school into talking about political. So we're going to pretend we host Meet the Press now. I don't even know who hosts. I know Chuck Todd left. Who hosts it now? Do you know?
It is a woman. I forget her name.
You know more than I do. I've not obviously watched it since Chuck Todd left. I'm not an avid, avidly watching it, I guess.
Kristen Welker.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I know who that is. Okay. Well, anyway, so we go way back. We've talked about this stuff forever. I thought it'd be fun to have Kris on and talk about the New Hampshire primary, which just ended, tonight, a couple hours ago, and no gigantic surprise that Donald Trump won and may still be currently. Kris was watching it. Are you still watching it? Is it still?
I was watching. I turned it on and watched Jake Tapper talking about it.
I saw a little bit of that too.
Yeah, and it was right as like what Trump he's doing like what rappers do. He's just got guest stars coming on now to speak for him. Pretty smart. Because it's hard to make a sentence when you're
like 77.
Yeah,
it's actually I hadn't really thought about that, but I think that here's one interesting thing is that I've heard people say like, hey, this is not Trump in 2016 or even 2020. Like this is actually a well-ran campaign. Now he may be at his absolute worst ever, but like
yes, but his
campaign is actually like a well-oiled machine. And so it's interesting that you say that because I guarantee that's on purpose. Because you're right, it was like Ramaswamy and Tim Scott, and he's making Tim Scott profess his love to him. Did you see that part?
No, I saw the guy, the bald guy that was going to fix the border that he was already in charge of for 4 years.
Oh, right.
He's like, this guy. Like, okay, you can like, come on.
Hold on, we'll share this. If you're watching the video version of the podcast, you get to see this. Let's see if I can actually get it working. This is I tried to grab a screenshot on my phone, and that's the look I got on Tim Scott's face, which feels a little bit like the Chris Christie hostage situation. Remember, early in 2016, and I really like Tim Scott, but I don't know if I can now with him standing back there professing his love for Donald Trump. It's not my favorite thing, honestly.
Dude, you got just like my heart goes out to guys like Tim though, because you've got to get reelected, you got to play the game, you got to find the balance, and it's got to be so hard to find that middle ground between being all in or being like Christie, who
he can't ever
completely rejected because he was so anti-Trump.
So, but the thing that bothers me, I guess what bothers me is that he's clearly, I think he's like a VP pick, right?
Yeah,
and so
why.
I can't imagine why. Well, I actually think it's not for the main reason you think it is. Him being black is a plus. I think it's more because he's not as big a personality as Trump, and he can't possibly have someone overshadow him. That's why Ramaswamy would never be able to be the VP. He could not possibly stand having someone that ambitious and kind of coming after you a little bit. He was fine with Ramaswamy this whole time because he was just his little stalking horse that was in the race. But, literally, he was just there. He was like a Trump surrogate. He was like, it's like Trump's little elf that just went to the places and Trump didn't have to debate and stuff. And until Ramaswamy started saying some stuff about
it that way. You're right. He was like a stand-in, like a
he was he was literally like a stand-in. And so everyone hated him for that because it was just like, that's such a pansy move to be like, well, I'm not going to go to the debate, but I'll send this guy essentially until like the last week of Iowa. And he was kind of saying like, Trump's too old and blah, blah, blah. And then they like turned on the heat on him and he got out.
Yeah.
So,
now he's on stage with Trump.
And now he's on stage with him, and Tim Scott did the same thing. And these people are obviously calculating for the future. But I guess what bothers me about that is that I know none of them really feel this way.
Yeah.
And so what bothers me the most is that if everyone that felt that way about him just said so, he wouldn't have the hold on the Republican Party that he has.
And that always surprises me because one thing as a bleeding heart liberal I've always admired about the Republican Party.
Oh yeah, listeners, we forgot to tell you. Kris is a liberal. I forgot to tell you, he's a Democrat. We're still really good friends. I know it's shocking. A lot of people don't know that this is possible.
Oh, no, it absolutely is possible. But one thing, what's the saying? I'm going to butcher it. Democrats fall in love, Republicans get in line. I butchered it.
I think that is something like that. Yeah. And then there's the one about voting with their heart versus their head kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the fall in line thing, I guess, is right. Except I think the difference is like, we weren't talking like the Republican Party's always been this complicated, like.
Right. But you guys always got in line when the time was right, when it was important. You got your stuff.
Well, and realized that we wouldn't have.
It's infuriating from the other side because it was magic. It was so good.
Well, but you wouldn't have
Gingrich in '92. From then on, it was like you guys were just lockstep.
Yeah, but before it was like we think this and we kind of think this and we're like this and like I will if I get a little bit of what I want and you get like we realized that we have to those three kind of fusionism kind of thing or whatever that had to happen to have those three parts of the party to be able to win. Like that's why they never in power for the last 30 years before that was because they never got so that was a different degree of it though. People still argued with each other all the time. I mean, it's like, but now it's literally just like, you have to get in line and kiss the ring kind of thing. Now, some people have managed to not do it. Like there's like James Langsford is our Oklahoma senator and he's managed to like just kind of try to just avoid it. It's almost like he just wants to, but he doesn't want to be in his cabinet. He doesn't want to be a VP. He probably doesn't want to do any of those things. So he doesn't have to.
He is taking a position like,
and he doesn't have to run for re-election in the next 4 years too. Right. So, I mean, that's probably, that's the 2 years of your term. But that's not even the excuse for most senators, because a lot of the senators are still playing this kind of game. I mean, and some of them swung wildly to one side after January 6th and then have come screaming back. I mean, like every day I see tweet from January 2021, tweet today endorsing Trump and saying like he's the and like not just endorsing him, but like, it's like, it's gross. It's like groveling, emasculating. Like he just loves someone having to crawl back. Like he loves that, right?
Yeah, it really is. It's beyond hero worship. It's a little off-putting. It gets, sometimes I'm just wondering, like, how do you guys? I mean, even DeSantis, like he.
Yeah,
immediately thrown to the fold.
This is a guy who like
a parting shot. You'd think he'd at least like say something in that speech besides misquoting Winston Churchill.
Oh gosh, that was pretty good, right? Yeah,
I didn't know that until I saw your video on it. I was like, oh, that sucks.
But yeah, it's like it's
bad for him. I was like, dang.
And like I said, it's different than I'll vote for the eventual nominee because this is different. Like they could have said this race is still going. They didn't have to get out and endorse him, but it's like they know they need something and they know they want whatever and they just want to. And this is the majority of the Republican Party now. I mean, like they're not the insurgency. They're not the minority of the Republican Party anymore. It's like he's winning with 50+%. That's not now. That's pretty weak if you look at it like an incumbent. I think I saw the numbers. Have you paid attention to?
That's what I was going to ask you. Is because wait, are you talking about the primary results?
Yeah, the primary. I mean, like,
it was 54.
No, right. But I'm saying the Democratic one where they had to write in Joe Biden. I think that last I saw Dean had like 20%, which is like not nothing for the
Oh my
incumbent
gosh, no.
president.
No,
Right.
well, you know, like it's hard to find any news on it because everybody's just talking about
Right. But to
Trump.
me, that's a big
Yeah. Oh
deal.
no, you're right. Yeah, Dean Phillips 21%.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
not
15,000
nothing.
votes.
He has no chance of actually getting that. My point is though that like that is a pretty big like Democrats saying we do not want Biden, and then that because that's barely half of what Haley just got, who's actually in a race in an open primary with Donald Trump, who's kind of like an incumbent, but not actually. But I mean, he is like an incumbent in the sense that this only happened once before, where someone who got defeated and ran again. Yeah,
I did a report on him in 5th grade.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it only happens not very often. So it's really weird. And it certainly didn't have like modern polling back then to know it, like what we're talking about now. So to me, it's like, it's such a, how do they not see the blinking red lights that are like, you guys are in trouble potentially in November? Because from now on, it's going to be talking about Trump, Biden, but there's already like RFK Jr., who's on the ballot in several states, and then Noble Labels, who doesn't have a candidate yet, but I mean, they said they won't pick someone until it's definitely Biden and Trump. But I would say Haley's going to drop out in the next 2 weeks, I would think, unless she just stays in. It's in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I would think she'd be out by then instead of getting embarrassed in her home state, because it's like, you're not going to win unless she has the gumption to just be like, I'm going to stay in for as long as I can to distract Trump and make him spend money on this. If she really puts her money where her mouth is to say that he's dangerous, because I think they all understand that he's dangerous. Like, right? I mean, like, this is
like deep down. You mean like in a private conversation?
No, I don't even think like deep down. They've said so in the past. I don't think their minds have changed. Like they're quoted as saying as much. And
right, they just go a little lighter when it's less convenient.
Yeah, when the cameras are on and they're running, and now, or if they want a job in now or 2028, because that's what DeSantis and Haley are doing. That's what everyone's doing right now. It's
but
like they want to run in 2028.
Brokers of the Republican Party going to start saying, "Hey, Miss Haley, every day you stay in the race and you keep saying this bad stuff about Trump, you're weakening what looks like our eventual candidate."
There are no power brokers. There are none.
Oh, is that the key?
No, there is no like magical. If you think
just always picture the cigar smoking tycoons in the back room drinking bourbon, I guess.
Do you think those cigar smoking tycoons would have let Donald Trump win the nomination in 2016? No.
Well, no. And all the big money was behind DeSantis a year ago, right?
Yes, or Bernie Sanders for that matter on the Democrat side. Do you think they would have let him get that close to beating Hillary Clinton if they had any control? If these like overlords that everyone thinks run everything, that's what drives me insane about the MAGA crowd, is that they insist that everything is the deep state, right? And I'm like, so you think the deep state who loves Hillary Clinton tried to get her beat in the Democratic primary? You think the Democrats can't rig their own primary, but they can rig a national election? It makes
that one always got me. Yeah.
No sense, right? None at all. Like you can't pull that string and make it make any sense. So, okay. Was that just for show to make you think that I don't know. It's insane to me what they think.
That's the MAGA problem, is they need a perpetual enemy, someone to throw and sling dirt at. And sometimes
and an excuse
end up running out of straw men, and you have to just face the facts like, oh, maybe our guy just didn't govern that well when he was here, and that's why he lost.
Well, yeah, it's because they can't ever say that Trump did anything wrong.
Right.
And so they have to say that the first 2 years were when he had complete control of Congress and the White House. He was thwarted, like the Democrats somehow thwarted him, even though they didn't have control of the House and didn't have control of the Senate. Somehow they thwarted his agenda. And so now we got to give him another shot because he didn't get a fair shot last time. I'm like, well, why would they be able to prevent him from why wouldn't they not be able to do the exact same thing this time if that's the case? And why? Okay, so did they force you to lose in 2018? They forced you to lose in 2020 and in 2022. And I mean, I think with him as the nominee, it's like, I think Republicans probably lose the House for sure, and maybe continue to lose the Senate, and whether he wins or not. Because I think at this point, it's just kind of like, who's going to look less frail or crazy between now and November? between Biden and Trump.
And that presents a much bigger problem for the Trump campaign because Biden's people are going to be able to help him, I think, get in line. Because all he really has to do is shut up. If he just stays quiet, doesn't fall down the stairs, if he can just do that for 6 months,
but do you think that
be the
works?
Best strategy.
Do you think that works in a general election? 2020 is a pandemic.
It's risky.
So you could do it from his basement. And like, that was probably the reason he won, is because he didn't have to actually do a real campaign. I mean, I think that
keep letting Trump run his mouth and you keep turning off moderates. I mean, you're not like the Democrats are going to win Florida, but they don't need to,
Well, but here's the other problem.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I would love to be in the strategy room for the Biden, just kind of be like, okay, because they know Trump's the guy, so they're already talking strategy, right?
Oh, they've already come out with the full Hitler. They're all going full Hitler, Kris.
Yeah, I know.
It's so stupid. I don't think it'll work.
What is that rule? What's the internet rule? Like Rule 22? I forget. Like every conversation eventually will devolve to the point where Nazis get brought up.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that's he's going for it right now. He's not even going to wait till July or August. He's literally just going Hitler in January, 11 months before the election.
Godwin's law. Any online discussion continues long enough, someone will eventually compare someone else to Hitler.
Yeah,
you should know that.
I really should at this point. And it's so, I think it's ridiculous. I would say that I've been as harsh a Trump critic from the right as, I don't know, maybe not anyone Would that be fair? I'm one of them.
Yes.
From the right of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've definitely got family who are they're definitely not watching this, but I've definitely got family that are Trump supporters. And
they hate this.
They fall into the crowd of like, can't do wrong. And then to keep justifying.
Yes. Yeah. We all know this.
Whereas you've always kind of been like, no, I don't, I know he's a Republican or
they work
says
for
he
us,
is, but I don't care. I do not, I do not respect this man.
Yeah. But he's not Hitler.
No,
he can be a bad person and not be Hitler. There are lots of really, really bad people that I don't think are as bad as Hitler. He didn't,
Absolutely.
You could be a serial killer and you still didn't start a world war and, murder an entire race of people. Not the entire, but 6 million of them. Like, right. So, you know what I mean? We can compare, someone can be a bad person and you don't have to say they're Hitler. I really don't think. Now, obviously Trump has the authoritarian thing going for him too, but he's kind of like so far it's never worked. So I don't buy that like the end of democracy as we will ever. Now, I think it's a really bad precedent. I'm not trying to excuse electing Trump. I think that everyone should do everything they can to not. I hate
You're
that
not saying go ahead and elect him, it'll be fine. Nothing can go wrong. You're
not
just
at all.
saying like,
I'm saying that like
as bad as the doomsdayers say.
I don't think that all the institutions that held up the last time he tried to steal an election, it wasn't even close. Like it didn't. Yeah, we had a riot at the Capitol, and a lot of those people have gone to jail, and I think they should. But
well, don't you agree?
Congress still voted that night.
Most people have a fundamental misunderstanding of the actual power of the presidency. And furthermore, a misunderstanding that the man or woman themselves hold that much power. It's really the cabinet and the folks they bring along with them. And that's why Trump's scarier is because he doesn't really care as long as he looks good. So people just whisper in his ear and they're like, hey, you're going to look awesome if you just do this. And then he'll just be like, okay, do it.
But I don't actually even think that's most of what was happening. I think it was Trump going, I want to do this. And then people going, you can't do that. This time he won't have people saying you can't do that. But someone will.
Then he got all those people out of there until he found the people that were.
Yeah, it's just like, right. But even then, those people are so inept.
Yeah.
Like, it's like look at his lawyers right now.
Yes. Oh, no, that's you're absolutely right.
Look at his lawyers. Yeah. This is when it comes to his ass potentially going to prison. And these are the people, because he doesn't pay his bills and he treats his lawyers bad. And so now he's scraping the bottom of the barrel with these people that have never worked these kind of cases before. Do you understand? Like, okay, if you're a Trump supporter and you're like, he wins, he fights, he's so good, he hires the best people. Like, if you read any lawyer's writing about the Donald Trump, any of his trials right now. And it is like mockery of his lawyers. These are even people that would defend him normally, you know, on the margins, conservative people going like one of them started it with the picture of George Bluth saying, "I've got the worst effing lawyer."
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like a perfect example of like, so that's who he's hiring to cover his own butt from trying to go to prison. And you think he's going to hire good people in the White House that are going to get paid a lot less? I mean, actually, they're not going to get paid less because the Treasury Department pays their checks instead of Donald Trump. So Trump's lawyers are actually going to make less money than even like White House aides potentially. But yeah, but I mean, so I don't know. So my point is that I don't love that Biden's gone for this like full Hitler thing, because I think that it's basically just both of them going to go like, oh, who's like, we got to paint the other guy as worse than me. It's going to be the first all negative campaign. It's going to be no, I'll do this, or we should have this kind of policy. It's just going to be, he's Hitler, or Trump's doing the same thing to him. If you notice, it's like,
I know. And it's just so depressing. No matter like if you care about politics or you don't, just hearing all that negative stuff all the time is just depressing.
Yeah. And it's, and we are really flirting with a couple. I mean, it's like there's a solid 10% chance or something like that. Or I can't remember. I've read this before. What statistically, one of them will die in like, it's like there's a 30% chance that one of them dies or more, or I can't remember the exact numbers, in the next 5 years, because they're 77 and 81.
Yeah.
You know, so we're flirting with that with Kamala Harris, who is, I mean, does anyone like her? I don't think, I mean, I can't even find someone that defends her.
I have no defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if Biden just replaced her, people would be like, oh, okay, whatever. That's fine. If he put like Amy Klobuchar as vice president, everyone would go like, all right, we trust. She'd be fine if he died.
She can govern, like, maybe don't agree on policy, but...
Right, but like, you know, I'm not... But then it's like, does he have the mental faculties to be there? We've got all this stuff ramping up the East, and like Trump, I mean, like, I think Haley's attack on him, did you see the thing where he was like talking about her, but it was like talking about Nancy Pelosi, but he kept saying Nikki Haley?
Oh, is that what she was making fun of him for?
Yes.
No, I hadn't seen the subject matter, but I saw Haley's response. I thought she was just making a funny joke, like, he's so dumb that he actually did this.
He actually did this. And it wasn't like one slip. You know how sometimes you just flip the names. I mean, I call my kids the wrong names all the time. I certainly know who they are. Well, but you know, the wrong names.
Even a younger man, younger woman campaigning, doing all those rallies, like, it's got to be freaking exhausting. Like, I get it. You know, but I give him a little. The point is, he over and over again said Nikki Haley this, Nikki Haley this, Nikki Haley had control of the National Guard, Nikki Haley, and she's like, I wasn't even in the administration, but I mean, and so, you know, but like, what if he kept saying, you know, bomb this country over and over again? I just say, I mean, it's like, it does matter. He's also 77. If he's saying, you'd have to listen.
Right. But why are we flirting with this? Why are we even flirting with having to ask this question? And Biden's the same way. Like Biden.
Yeah. So if the president says, like, you know, do an emergency military strike on, and he means to say Cambodia, but he accidentally says Canada, do we have to like bomb Trudeau's house? Like, does the military just have to do it?
Well, I think that generally how this works.
Surely somebody stopped it somewhere and goes, okay, point to the country you hate.
Oh God, we'd be in even worse trouble. If Trump couldn't, there's no way. So
he definitely wouldn't point to Canada. Oh no, he might. Actually.
He might actually. Okay, so here, this is actually interesting. Okay,
yeah.
Obviously, I don't know how it always works, but I'm pretty sure generally there are other people making all of these. You know, it's like he comes into the room and it's like, here is the final presentation of here's what's happening. Right. Here are the options. Here are the pros and cons. Here's this person arguing this. So like, I don't think it's that like Biden out of nowhere, like walks in the whatever. Hey guys, can we just all go meet down in the, whatever that room is?
The sitch room.
The sitch room. Get down there and he closes the door and he's like, we're going to bomb that bastard Trudeau. Yes. You know, I'm sure that's not how it works at all. So now Trump, I really don't. But here's the thing that's weird to me. And this is just because, look, this is not me trying to say there's an age limit that I think you can be the president. We've seen.
No, you're talking about the mental capacity of two individual people, right?
Mitch McConnell, who is the same age as Biden, until he had that fall and a couple freezing moments, was very much. Bob Dole in his 90s was sharp. He was in a wheelchair, but like his brain was 1,000. He was doing speeches. He was fine. Like there was no. He was physically frail, but not mentally. And so, but you can see it like in Biden and Trump that like they have lost a step or several over at least the last. I think even the last 4 years, I think the 4 years before that, certainly since when Biden was vice president in 2012.
Oh, dude, yeah, that when you see like Obama era Biden compared to now, like he's just got this kind of like glassy gaze off into the middle distance,
and we recognize it because we've had grandparents that went through this same kind of stuff. So it's
my guess is he goes in and out of these states. There's probably very lucid states where. Wait, lucid's bad or good? I don't remember.
No, I'm not a doctor.
But you know what I mean? Like,
but yes,
he probably goes in and out of states where like everything's super clear.
Right, but when you're the president, you really, I need you to be like able to fire on all cylinders at all times, because the Osama bin Laden thing doesn't happen conveniently at 3 p.m. after your nap and ice cream. It's
that's
like,
a good point. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that's the thing, you get woken up in the middle of the night. Okay, and what if how memory is? And these are two old, super stubborn, stuck in their ways guys. How many people do you know they're like changing their mind a lot in their 70s? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're
right.
You're not switching from Coors to Bud. Yeah. You're not doing any. You are like, this is me. I'm not. Well, okay. So your personality.
What? Young people aren't lazy. They're great.
Get on my lawn.
That's right. That was perfect.
I think all. Yeah. So what I'm wondering is like, okay, as you get older, you're maybe more stubborn. Maybe you're not listening to people as much. I think it's very clear that Trump is beyond a level. I mean, he probably already is that personality anyway, my way or the highway. But then the old age just makes it worse. And basically anyone that's told him no is now a rhino or a traitor or should be hung or we're worthless or the dumbest people. I mean, these are all things he said about all the people he hired who were supposed to, he's supposed to be hire the best people. And he did actually hire some really good people in that first administration, but they all quit or got fired because they were like, at some point he tried to cross a line that said, I can't do that. I'm out of here. And so, it doesn't make any sense to me that like that guy's going to hire people that will only say yes to him. Well, he's going to have really bad ideas because he already has really bad ideas. And you start conflating Biden, you start conflating, like, for whatever reason, I'm guessing because Obama wanted to, it seems like Biden has no interest in, like, he just wants Iran to go away magically. Seems like he has no interest.
Really talked about it very much, have we?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like they're like the Houthi people are attacking all the ships in the Suez Canal. It's a pretty crazy situation that's going on, and we just keep going kind of like, well, we don't want to escalate things. And it seems like, and he wanted to get the nuclear deal back, after Trump vetoed it. And this is why presidents shouldn't be signing treaties. They're not really, it's because they don't have the power to do so. So the next guy so anyway, Biden's had in his mind, he will not do anything to provoke Iran. He's just decided that, right? Well, what do you think's going to ever get presented in front of him that's going to change his mind?
Oh,
and even if it's the legitimate
standards.
Yeah. And what if he confuses that's a bad example because he has this weird not love, but it's like he doesn't want to poke the bear and stuff like that. But pick something else, like, his hate of Putin, let's just say, or whatever. Well, like, what if that clouds his judgment in a way where he just can't possibly see how, whatever, Nord Stream pipeline blows up kind of situation, and it's like, and he's gonna default to the Russian bad guy situation.
Well, I've definitely seen interviews with folks that present for the president, and even people that were in the presidential campaign running with this guy, as before he was president, they still say there's something about that room that is very intimidating. And if that man at that desk says, I don't really want to see any more of that, like, all these people just heard Okay, never ever
Right.
show him anything about Iran again, because we don't want to go in that room and get shushed by the president. That sucks.
Or fired. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Literally, because like that's what it was in Trump's White House. Was you ended
Right.
up in a situation, and people forget that. Like, well, let me make the point first, and then I'll say what people forget about it. But you know, it clearly at the end was what was happening. It was like someone would bring something or say, "I can't do this," and they would no longer be in the president's ear, and they would bring someone else, and it was a combination of that's. I mean, that's how my opinion, and I don't know that we'll ever. Maybe we'll know as these people start writing books in 20 years after he dies or something. But I don't think we'll ever know really like what really happened. I think that he decided
20,
I'm
right?
gonna probably less than 20. Sorry, you know what I mean. Well, but like Deep Throat took forever to come out.
Right,
Like I didn't know if
right.
it was like they also have to be the one dying. But the point is like I don't know. I don't know that Trump. What do you think? Do you think that Trump really believes the election was stolen from him? Do you think he always did? Like I think that what happened was that he started with that was going to be the excuse for like no matter what. That's why he was talking about it before the election. He did the same thing in 2016, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, but then as you're kicking out the people like Bill Barr that say
I completely
there's
agree.
absolutely
Yes.
no evidence, right?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. And then slowly the narrative that's all he heard.
So
and
now there's no Bill
yeah.
Barrs. Now it's just Cindy Powell's and Rudy Giuliani's and people that will tell you because they know you get fired or you leave or you're no longer getting to meet with the president if you say anything about the election not being stolen. So we better find it was a coup in search of a legal argument for it is what it was. But really, I think it just started as an excuse for losing because he can't admit he lost because he can't be a loser.
Precisely. But
I think he believes it now.
Over time, he became someone that believed at least that there was some conspiracy, maybe not definable, loosely definable.
Yeah.
But for, interference or whatever, they would have found it. They would have.
But I also think he's a very gullible guy. I mean, I think
well, gullible if you tell him stuff he wants to hear, especially.
Well, I think he's gullible across the board. I mean, just even look at like kind of the dumb things like people made fun of him during COVID of like suggesting we inject bleach into our. I mean, it was like that idea popped in his head as being possible, and he just said it out loud.
Yeah.
Like it was not, and so it's like, why wouldn't that work? You know what I mean? So if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, we've got this evidence that blah 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 happened," I think he banks that as true, especially as it happens more and more. I mean, did you ever listen to that Malcolm Gladwell revisionist history about the like Brian Williams thing and how he was and had all these memory experts that are like our brains are absolutely unreliable for memory, and they talked about how after they did this experiment after 9/11 and they interviewed all these people like the week of 9/11 and asked them to like, where were you? How did it go down? Blah, blah, blah. And then they did it again, like the next year and then 5 years and then 10 years and then 20 years or whatever the periods of time were. And they were like looking at their handwritten thing from 2001 and because they had written something contradictory to it 10 years later. And they were going, well, I was wrong. I mean, they were so convinced that even their own record from the week of was wrong and that their memory was right. Well, that's going to start happening if people are telling you all the time that the election was stolen.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
It's like you're putting a turbocharger on that, because you don't need time to do the damage. You've got somebody else like picking away at your memory. No, you don't remember it right.
Yeah. And so to me, you just got a situation where both these guys just on account of their age, even if we didn't see the mental deterioration would worry me. But the fact that we see it, I just think is crazy now that we're heading towards a rematch of 2020 when it was kind of ridiculous that they were the choices we had in 2020.
Dude, I know.
And it's just even worse now.
There's not much you can do if you're Democrats. I mean, I don't know. There's always new precedents being set. But, the party in power hardly ever lose. Wait, I think it's only happened like 3 times since Johnson.
Since 1900 or so, right? I mean, I guess short of a couple of assassinations.
Incumbent party always wins. With one, Bush was the exception, but it's got an asterisk because he was technically the third Republican term.
Right.
Which was already an anomaly. So the fact that he didn't win a second was...
But that's the thing is, like, we can't look at any past stuff because I think the problem is that you've got the same thing with this is also unprecedented. I hate unprecedented, but it really is only happened once that someone has lost after one term and then runs again 4 years later. It's only happened one other time. And it certainly never happened with someone as unpopular as both Trump and Biden are. That's the other weird thing, is that like no one wanted them 4 years ago, really. And definitely no one wants them now, to the tune of 20% of Democrats in New Hampshire saying we really would like someone else.
See, I always wondered how baller it would have been for Biden, like day one, to be like, I'm doing one term and going
I think he should have.
You know, because he could have been like, I don't,
or 2 years
I don't need to get reelected. Yeah, yes. Like, I don't need to get reelected. I'm going to do exactly what I want. I don't care if we burn this place to the ground. You know, I'm going to get XYZ passed.
It still would have been,
and that would have given 4 years for another rising star to come up and try to pave a way for themselves.
Yeah, and work with him to get stuff done if they want to be that person too.
Yeah,
because he could be like, hey, I can not stay out of the primary if I want to, especially if I'm resigning. I can say like, this is my choice. Now, the problem
you're
is,
right. He even gets to be like, and this, he's like, gets to be kingmaker.
That would have worked if he would have picked someone other than Kamala Harris for his vice president. But because he decided to jump into identity politics, which I think is so stupid, because look, you literally said, I'm going to pick a black woman.
Yeah.
Okay, so you told everyone you're going to do a diversity hire, essentially, is what that is. You're literally saying, like, I'm narrowing this down. It's not good enough that it would be a woman. It's going to be a black woman. So you immediately narrow the field of, like, that's the first qualification. Well, she's not even popular. She's less popular, Kris, with black people than he is.
No.
So, like, why not just ditch her?
Well, that was my next point was, hey, she served a great 4 years. Like, we want to bring some new ideas to the administration. That probably would have that might have even invigorated the Democratic base to be like, okay, he's super old and he might die. At least this is the person we're getting instead or after that.
Or he could have picked. He could have picked another older person, not like really old, or someone that like wanted to exit politics and for this to be their last thing.
Like 60, 70.
Yeah, just like, or like someone like Joe Manchin. It's probably like, I want to be gone soon anyway, and we'll both walk away. And that way it's like, literally it's the field. He could have done something like that, and it would have been
campaign. We would have.
It really would have cemented a legacy. Of course, who's going to give that job up once you have it? I think is the problem. No matter how old you are, I mean, like, who's going to be like walk away from that? Right? Most powerful man in the world. I mean, I get why people.
Johnson did. Of course.
Yeah, well, you're right. But
he technically did 8 years, didn't he?
He did
6.
Well, no, he did 6. He did 6. Yeah.
And then he died.
Yeah. Right.
Just like that.
But like that would
there's nothing else to do after you're president.
That would be more, it'd be just I'm not saying like Afghanistan wouldn't be on his record and inflation and all the other bad stuff that I think he's not done a great job on, but like people would be like, hey, like he really did. And we wouldn't have Trump either. I don't think.
But just to go like backwards a little bit to go forwards, like the deck really hasn't been shuffled except one time. Our whole adult lives, Clinton. It's just like everything's on repeat. Like we had this one anomaly, 2008, 2012, we had Obama. Like the first time somebody kind of new showed up, and then it's just like old timers. For God's sakes, can we just shuffle the deck?
Well,
and get a fresh start.
But here's what's weird about
obviously
that.
It's not going to happen now. But like, I wonder if the
well,
I wonder if like your Greg Abbotts are thinking, I'm just going to stay out of this and think about, 2028. Is that next?
Yeah. I mean,
oh my God.
But here's the thing. There's 2 problems that happen. Trump is, okay, let's just play some stuff out. I don't like making predictions that much because I'm terrible at them and I almost always get them wrong. But here's one thing I will definitely say. This is going to be a weird trip till November. I mean, like there are so many crazy things. Prediction. It will be like
it's
more than I could write down everything I think could happen, and I promise you something will happen that's not on that list. Does that make sense? Like,
yes,
something insane, and some of it, like it could be October 7th was a crazy thing that we have no control of. I'm not even saying it's going to be, but like there will be crazy things that we couldn't possibly predict that are going to happen before November happen that could wildly swing this. I mean,
you're
third
not
party
saying
stuff
political things. You're saying it could be like an international crisis
or political things,
some
or
sort of
Biden
national
has a
emergency.
stroke. I mean, it could be any of these things.
COVID-23.
Trump could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue. I mean, like, I don't like,
We've already established that would not be a problem.
I don't think it would be a problem. You know, so we don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, I think it's very possible that I don't think it's possible. I think the best way I've heard this said is, I think Jonah Goldberg says this, but I've heard other people say it, is that I don't think Trump can win, but I think Biden can lose. Like, I think Biden can screw this up. And I think he's more than capable of doing so without like a medical emergency or looking really old, or like we're probably not going to get debates from these guys.
No,
neither one of them are going to debate, because I think that would be, I think we would go, oh my God, what are we doing? But like, I almost wish we could force them to. I don't think it would help. But I mean, maybe, I don't think there's a chance a third party can win, but I wonder how much of a disruptor they can be and who they steal from. I think that you will get like a Ross Pro level of third party support this year.
Well, that's the thing, is that it's going to be a low turnout election.
I would think so.
Could be a bright spot for a third party, but if it's RFK, like, I mean, he's just gonna steal votes from the
Because like, what's your gauge? How enthusiastic are you about? Would you be about voting for Biden? Like, you would definitely vote for Biden between these two?
I mean, if I'm being real honest, if like I didn't vote early and the lines were kind of long the day, I think I'd just be like, stay home. I also live in Texas. It doesn't matter who I vote for.
I live in Oklahoma, and it doesn't matter who I vote for.
It matters the least where you live, yes.
But I didn't vote for president in 2016 or 2020 because I was like, I will not pick the lesser of the two of these. I hate both. Now, Biden, here's the thing. I would have voted for Biden in 2020 because I dislike Trump that much. Not dislike. That's the wrong word. There's nothing conservative about him. And I care about conservative values and principles and policies, and he does not. We have hardly any overlap in policy agreement. And beyond that,
it's just such a funny thing to say, so politically correct.
I know. Yeah,
well
but beyond that, I also don't think he should. I didn't think he did a good job. I don't think he would continue to do a good job. I think he's dangerous. I would have voted for Biden if he wouldn't have picked Kamala Harris. If he would have picked someone, not her, because I was like, he could die. Like, this is like, normally the VP doesn't matter at all. Would never think of it. Don't care about it at all. But I care about it with these two old dudes. And so what I wonder is, will it come down to, since neither one of these guys are going to get out of the race, and they're not going to be able to be forced out. Now, Donald Trump could be in jail. They could die, but like, short of those things, I don't think they're going to get out.
I forgot. I've almost completely forgotten about all the crime stuff.
Oh yeah, you forgot all that.
We've been focusing so much on primaries.
Well, and that's interesting that you say that, because you pay more attention than I would say most voters, and they don't remember anything other than the first set of indictments that came down for Trump were totally bogus. And they are. The New York ones are.
Oh, the New York ones. Yeah,
joke.
They wanted to be first out of the gate, and they
got to excuse all the other ones after it, because everyone came out, including me, and said these are garbage. And what this is going to do is pave the way for him to excuse every other set of indictments that's coming as garbage too.
In the media.
In the media. And he gets to say, it's like the boy who cried wolf, in a way. It's the same thing with the Hitler stuff. It's the reason that won't work for Biden, is because they've called every Republican Hitler since Reagan. Yeah. They've called every one of them. They called Romney racist. The awful things they paint every Republican, it's like, until they die.
Romney was just mean to dogs, specifically.
Yeah, but not racist. He wasn't going to put people in chains like Biden said. They do this every time. And so now that it's finally true that they have this authoritarian guy running against them, no one believes it, because you've called everyone Hitler. But I think they can make a difference with their VP picks. Because, like, if it...
Yeah.
Just Biden's, based on the old thing alone.
Biden's rolling with Harris already.
Well, but could you... come on. There's got to be some sort of West Wing level sabotage that you could... You can't hang something around her neck where she has to resign. I don't believe it.
Yeah, they save that if they start seeing trouble in the polls, probably.
Or give her a job, give her a different
August,
job. I don't
September.
know what other job she'd want, but if they see
right, but there's all those secret lobbying lawyer jobs that politicians get when you go away. It's like, oh, would you go away and just take this $300K salary, please? And
or what if
not talk.
what if I can't think of the scenario that happens there, but I mean, like, what if it comes down to like it's July, he's getting beat in the polls by Trump? Do you get rid of Kamala Harris? I don't know. I mean, and Trump might be in the same boat. Like Trump's going to pick someone. I don't think Trump.
Think about it the other way. What do you have to lose by not getting rid of her? Like, you know what I mean? I don't.
The only people I guess he's scared of are like white liberal, like super progressive white people that are going to call him racist for firing a black woman.
But then not vote for him? See, that's what I'm like. They're still going to vote for him.
But he could even pick another black woman if he wanted to.
That's what I'm saying.
The mayor of Atlanta.
I think you have far more to win. You reinvigorate your campaign, kind of do something weird and exciting, shake things up, and then you're right. Yeah, all you got to do is just pick another African-American woman and kind of...
He's also losing...
That would be really cool.
He's losing black voters right now, too. He's lost black and Hispanic voters and young voters. And so, like, he's kind of bleeding people, too, which I think is crazy because most of it's because him supporting Israel.
Yeah.
Y'all have an anti-Semitic problem with like 20%. Have you seen the poll that said like 20% of Democrats polled said they support Hamas, not Palestine, not Palestinians, Hamas over. It's bad. That's just
getting a little confused about the pillars of power in that part of the country. You can well, it's so complicated, obviously. Like you don't have to think Israel is evil because they've done some really bad stuff. Oh, well, I'm wading into waters here I shouldn't be. Just backtrack.
No. But the point is that, like, to not understand that Hamas is, I mean, like,
yes. That was the point I was trying to make. Yeah.
Hamas murdered a bunch of people at like an electronic music dance festival thing of people that were probably very anti Netanyahu's government.
Right. Exactly.
They're probably very pro-Palestinian and pro two-state solution and all that kind of stuff. And they murdered
crazy. I never
them.
thought about that. Those the more liberal amongst Israelites would have probably been like, no, we're kind of doing something kind of crappy over here.
But Hamas probably doesn't like them because they're also liberal, because Hamas is a freaking extremist.
The asterisk.
Yeah, I mean, they're like not, they don't, I mean, they don't think you can be gay. They don't think you can be like, they don't have any of the values. When I see the people, anyway, there's a group in the left that doesn't understand that, though. I think they really are just misinformed. I think it's mostly that they get their news from TikTok, and I definitely think there's clearly some
that TikTok thing's a big problem.
Is a big problem.
I'm not trying to be funny, but like,
but you
every
probably
once
will
in a while, my boys will. My boys are 5, by the way. They're twins. That's why they're both 5. People are always like, "They're both 5." Like, yeah, they're twins. I probably should.
How did they not put that together?
What? No, it's just I always lead the wrong way. And
well, I know, but yeah, if anyone's like, my kids are 5, I'd be like, they've got twins.
Yeah, right. You'd think, but they'll say they were watching something the other day. Oh, it was about tornadoes, and they were like, tornadoes usually, a tornado's coming, especially if it's really bad lightning and really bad thunder. I was like, that's not true.
It's not true at all.
Like, no, it's on the thing. And I was like, no, I live where tornadoes are. That is actually the opposite of what happens. It gets really stupid quiet and creepy, and that's when you need to be scared.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter to them. The authority was this person on TikTok. Like, their dad's just some chump that works, at a tech startup.
I wrote about this last week in my little newsletter thing because I had the same conversation with my 10-year-old not that long ago. That was like, hey, like, I mean, I really don't let them.
Yeah, this was like something they saw in passing.
Yeah, they love to, like,
my kids don't. Yeah.
But like but
their takeaway should not be that my 5-year-old loves TikTok. Please,
you're a bad parent.
That would be bad.
No, but I was explaining like, hey, well, but everything on the internet's not true, and like Poppy did not understand why. She didn't understand why it was like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, well, people lie or have the wrong information or do it on purpose. But yeah, I mean, you can't trust everything that you hear. But I think most people, I think that she's 10, so she has a good excuse to not know that. I feel like there's a lot of adults that are treating what they hear the same way. It's like, well, Donald Trump told me, and I don't blame people for believing him. I think you should be able to believe what the president of the United States says, like, and so they just believe what he says is true. And then especially when Fox News and Newsmax and all those channels just also back it up, and every Republican, and no one ever calls him out and says it's not true other than MSNBC or the liberal media or Democrats or rhinos. That's me now.
Right.
That's me now. People are like, you must love Biden. And I'm like,
I saw your rhino
chump. Like they
story.
are
real. It was good.
It's like they are, they're in a primary right now. Your choice is not between Biden and Trump right now. It's between Trump and Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis, or, pick one. Like, I think either one of those would be better. And they'd more definitively beat Biden too, if you really care about getting him out of the White House. But it's like they just pair. It's like it is like I can predict what someone's going to. I can predict every comment that's going to be on any video I post that has anything to do with negative Trump, talking points.
Yeah.
And it's like they've never thought about. And to be fair, this happens on the left a lot too. I have arguments with people that I'm like, like I argued with a friend of ours that will remain unnamed one time. I just like sent him a private message because I was like, do you know that people have to pass a background check to purchase a gun, like at a store? And they did not. They were like, no, I thought you just walked in and could buy one. And I was like, no, that's not how it works at all. And like, and I knew he just had no idea, but like the thing he was posting was so ignorant that I wanted to be like, just a heads up. I think you don't actually know how this works. But I think that's just people on both sides now are just like, and I'm not saying you got to be junkies like I am, like for this stuff, but you should know. I think it's been a mistake to deplatform Trump so that we don't hear all the crazy stuff he's been saying for the last 2 years. Because like people like you are like, I forgot about the criminal stuff. Like, because it's just not been in the news that much because it's all this pretrial boring lawyer stuff.
Well, didn't they he's back? He's allowed back on Twitter. He's just doing his own thing.
Yes,
now, right?
He's back. Yeah, but now he's sticking to his Truth Social.
Like that Truth money.
But like, the stuff he says on Truth has gotten crazier and crazier and crazier. And you were watching his speech earlier, his victory speech. And
Well,
wait, we weren't on yet when you said it's like rappers. I mean, it's like, it's so.
Yeah. And also, I don't think I'm gullible, but I try not to watch pundits because I tend to like immediately cling onto their opinion. I'm like, oh yeah, that is because they're important people in suits. But I did agree
the suits. That's what gets me.
The CNN folks, they were like, have you ever seen someone so mad that they won? Like he was just raging about Nikki Haley. Like he destroyed her. Like, but he's still just like frothing at the mouth with anger. Like, dude.
It's because he's vindictive. He's not.
Know, but it's so weird. That's like a human person with any compassion could look at that and think that was somebody you'd want to throw your lot in with. I don't know.
I agree, but I mean, I think but that's what I think is the upside is that like maybe now we will start seeing so much of Biden and Trump that we will all go like, what have we done? Now, I mean, I think it's too like if it's Biden and Trump, I don't know what we're going to do. Yeah. It's too late.
Yeah.
But maybe a third party can at least throw a wrench in this thing where I just want to see something. Like, I don't see what will change in 2028 with the way the parties are so gutless right now to do anything about how bad their nominee is. When they can, there's no law that says they can't just choose it.
Right. The system of caucuses and primaries that choose the candidate has gotten exceedingly easy. It's gotten easier to put your weight on the scale, right?
Well, I don't think it's so much that. So you're saying you think that it's easy for them to like shape the race, which obviously the Democrats tried to do by skipping basically Iowa and New Hampshire to make South Carolina the first thing this time.
Right.
Which is their prerogative. Like, they don't want to show a contested thing.
But it can change. A surprise win in Iowa can do magical things for a campaign.
Right, but don't you think that's more of just like we're all too quick to... Do you think the early polls are wagging the dog? Because this is getting into some wonky stuff, maybe too much. But like,
no, I've always wondered, like the the poll thing, like chicken versus egg. Did they win
Yeah.
because the polls said they were winning, and so people just naturally thought, well, if that's what the polls say, then that's the way I'm going. Yeah, polls are kind of weird in that way.
Well, yeah, and so because okay, you look back like a year from right now, it was probably less than that. I had Elise come on and my wife and do, she's my wife, but people listening might not. Kris is like, who? We've been friends for 20 years. I don't know your wife. But so I just went through all the names of everyone that was running for president on the Republican side. She'd heard of Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. That was it. So if the polls are dictating who gets to stay in and who gets to go to debates and things like that, and no one's heard of you before, but they can't hear of you before, you know what I mean? There's like, I just think there's too much of the polls are wagging the people a lot. And when the polls are really just about name recognition, like,
right.
That's why Trump did so well. It's because people already knew they did not have to be introduced to Donald Trump. They knew who Donald Trump was. And Hillary Clinton's kind of the same way. People already knew she was a known factor.
Yeah.
But I feel like no one's really, if the parties had any power to do so, like I said, they would not have let Bernie Sanders sniff the nomination in 2016, and the Republicans would not let a guy, Donald Trump, win the nomination who was not a Republican a few years before that, essentially. They just wouldn't have done that if they had any power to stop it. So I don't think the parties have any power to do any nefarious thing. When people think that it's like, oh, all this string pulling, I just don't think it happened. Now they could, and I think they probably should. Don't you think the first party that did that and just said, you know what, we're done with primaries, we're going to start picking our people and they're going to govern and we're going to start winning?
Yeah.
Why doesn't? So I'm saying that, like, okay, if I could be in charge of the Republican Party, what's her name? Now I know it's a series of states, but like
Wasserman Schultz.
Yeah, and really, no, it's no, I can't remember her name. Ronnie something. Anyway, but if Donald Trump did this, it would happen. Is the point, because he's basically the head of the party,
or the de facto.
Like, because what's happening on both sides, I feel like, is like you're getting Margie Taylor Greens and Matt Gaetz and these people that are not serious and they're winning primaries, and basically all that's happening is on the left and the right. If you don't step in line with what the really fringy part of each base wants, they primary you. So it's like AOC takes over the third guy in leadership in the House when she beats him in a primary, which doesn't really do you a lot of good. Now you've got a freshman congressman and now all your experience is gone. And like, she just didn't like that he, and then she doesn't really do a good job. Right. So it's rampant in the House and it's starting to creep into the Senate too. So now we've got Josh Hawley's and we've got, and we've got Diane and then we've got, Elizabeth Warren's. We've got like people that are not really, it's mostly performative. It's mostly a platform. They're not really doing the institutional work. At some point, the parties are going to like either not get stuff done and voters are going to keep like switching back and forth between, because I think we're just playing ping pong at this point. Essentially, like there were people that were tired of George W. Bush and they voted for Obama twice. And then there were literally Obama voters that had to vote for Trump in 2016. Like, statistically, it just has to work.
Oh, right. So somebody had that, right.
So they're like, well, that change didn't really happen. Then they tried Trump and then they go, well, that was worse. And then they switched to Biden. And I think if it was anyone other than Trump, they would go with if it was a fresh face on the Republican side that had not been president, I think Biden would not stand a chance. There'd be no chance in November because he's trailing most of them in the polls anyway. Nikki Haley beat him pretty significantly, like 8 points or something. So at some point, does a party just go, we're going to start picking them? I don't think they will, but like it would be the first party that stops being crazy will win for a long time, I think.
Right.
But it doesn't seem like they think that they should be.
Right, because there's no laws governing that process, right?
No, it's like we didn't have primaries until 1972, and before that, that's what it was. It was like nominating conventions, and really Virginia.
That's right. That's right. Like CBS and all the news, the conventions were crazy because they were like making deals. And people were trading paper. Yeah.
And
oh man.
You know what I mean? So like and that kind of happened in Virginia a little bit during COVID. That's how they got Northam. It's kind of like they, it wasn't a real normal primary system. They did kind of a caucus nominating convention thing or whatever for like
Yeah.
COVID reasons, but really it was to try to keep someone Trumpy off the, someone too far right that would get beat in the general. That's really what they were trying to hedge to do. But you just wonder if more states will start doing that as they get beat. But I mean, I don't know. I think we're sorting so red and blue that maybe that doesn't happen. But
the trickiest part about such a drastic step is always like, who's going to make the first move? Because they're going to get screwed, right? And somebody has to just like, well, more than likely, and statistics would say, and history would dictate, maybe not, but especially these folks, they like the power they have. They, once you get elected, I mean, I don't think I could ever be. I say this as if I would get elected. I don't think I could ever be a House of Representatives. Because that just seems exhausting. Like you're literally just exhausting. Like taking a nap, and then you have to start raising money every next election, every 2 years.
You could have one meal, and then it's the next one's a fundraiser.
But I think it would be so difficult for the first, unless they could get a coalition together and say, all right, Washington, Oregon, California, maybe like we're all going to do it this way, and that way we can kind of set a mini precedent.
Okay, then here's the thought experiment that won't happen, unfortunately, but here's the thought experiment. Trump or Biden in the next, actually, let's say it's July or August. So past nominating conventions, they die. One of them dies. Do you think the parties just go with the VP? Or do you think they scramble another nominating convention together and actually do something? Because you can't do a primary at that point. You can't possibly do, you literally have to get a nominee right then, because you got to start campaigning for that person. And I'm not I would be curious what someone that was like actually in politics would say about this.
If you immediately decide to choose a new candidate for president, you are basically admitting that your vice president candidate, that you didn't have the respect for them to be president.
Well, right, but you don't even really get to pick them. You're like, because like if Donald Trump died and he was the nominee, all of a sudden the Republican national convention is like, the RNC is like kind of in charge at that point. Trump's basically running the RNC right now, and that's how it always is. Whoever's the president, even if you're not the president, even if you're Hillary Clinton in 2016, you are getting some help because you have more sway over the DNC, which is why they did kind of block. I mean, they didn't exactly block, but the way they got the superdelegates, which I think are actually smart. I don't care about democracy all the time. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, everything doesn't have to be democratic. I don't democratically choose what we're eating for dinner with my kids. If you ever
run for office and I'm your campaign manager, I'm strongly going to recommend you never say that again.
I'm saying we don't need democracy in every little institution. We don't need it in. We don't need a vote with the SWAT team as they go in. Okay, let's take a vote. Which way? How do we think we should go in? No, someone gives a command, and you like everything doesn't have to be popular vote kind of stuff. But I mean, don't you think one of them like there's no way the Democrats would be like, yeah, let's just see what happens. Let's roll the dice with Kamala Harris if like Biden died in August. And we don't know who Trump's pick is. So it's like, it's a little bit different there. I think that it would be more likely that the Trump pick would stick around, but I don't know. I mean, maybe not. Because all of a sudden here's the other thing. I did not know this till the other day. I knew one of the reasons people suspend their campaign and they don't end their campaign is because they can continue to fundraise and pay off debts and things like that. They continue to use that in a future campaign. There's some campaign finance laws, essentially. The other thing is that you can only get nominated at the Republican convention if you have some delegates. So in a situation where Donald Trump died before the convention, Haley and DeSantis would have to be the only people that could go on stage and according to the current rules, because they're the only people that have delegates at this point. Well, I guess there will be a couple. No, they'll be the only people that do, probably. Because, Vivek didn't get any, I don't think, for his 7%. I don't think he got any.
Dude, politics have been so wild for the last 8 years. Only that kind of strange circumstance. But
I'm not predicting that. I'm just saying what would happen.
Right. But like when someone of that age, like it's common to just have the heart attack, right?
Yeah.
Like the one.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
they say that like
a fiddle or
yeah.
like ride your bike, like it's just like you're also super duper old. Like
There's only two kinds of heart attacks. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was when my stepmom was going through cancer treatment that the doctor said something that was so profound yet so like simple. He was like, eventually something will kill you. And I was like, oh, that's true. Like eventually I'm going to die. And so it's going to be because I had a heart attack, I get hit by choo-choo train, something, right?
Yep. Something's going to happen. Something's going to get you.
But the chances go up of them passing away as each day goes by. They're getting older and older and older.
Well, yeah, and you just see, I mean, like, it's also, there's all sorts of there's other dangers too. It's like, well, you might be older. You might slip. You might, there's like Biden has fallen a couple times. He fell off his bike once. He's fallen up the stairs going up Air Force One. Like any one of those things can turn fatal when you're 80. Donald Trump is overweight. He's not healthy, despite what his fake doctors tell us at his physicals, and he aces all the mental exams too, I hear.
Well, I'm just saying, the Air Force really needs to consider maybe like an elevator for that plane.
Well, they stopped. Did you see they started loading him through the other like stairs that aren't as high? But this is a problem, Kris. This is crazy. You know what I mean? Yeah. I know it's funny, but like,
well, Marine One's like so maybe what they do is fly Marine One and then drop Biden in a chariot chassis thing and swing him into Air Force One.
That would be less dangerous, I think. Yeah, I think that's exactly how it would work. Like basically like in The Dark Knight, how they slingshot Batman with that skyhook thing. That's how we should get him.
That's the basic principle I'm talking about. Or we do like Zoom. He's just always on Zoom.
Always
never
on
goes
Zoom.
Anywhere.
Well, I mean, I think that he would like to have another like basement campaign like he did in 2020, like I said, but I just don't think that.
No, you really have my wheels spinning about what's going to happen, how they're going to play it.
Okay, here's another question. Because we hardly talked about Nikki Haley tonight because unfortunately I think she's not gonna, she's probably gonna have to drop out in the next couple of weeks. I mean, if she stuck around and tried to like just be a thorn in Trump's side, I would love that because I'm very sad that everyone else is just, and she said some stuff in her speech, by the way, that was pretty, here, wait, hold on. Speaking of
I haven't seen it, but I do know that it made Donald very, very angry.
It did. Here, I've got it. We're going to play it. Why not? Why not?
The question is, who's going to fix it? With Donald Trump, Republicans have lost almost every competitive election. We lost the Senate. We lost the House. We lost the White House. We lost in 2018. We lost in 2020. And we lost in 2022. The worst kept secret in politics is how badly the Democrats want to run against Donald Trump. They know Trump is the only Republican.
Brutal.
She goes on. This media player is not working right for some reason, but yeah, but I mean, it's like she doesn't seem to be. I think she knows she's not going to be VP because like and Ron DeSantis threw some more punches right before he got out too, and even as he got out. But like maybe she could
by the way.
Yeah, I don't think he's very good at the politics.
I'm not that tall.
Yeah,
but I can call him a weird little dude because I just own it.
Yeah. But I think the problem is going to be that if she's not like a thorn in his side, everyone's just going to rally around him. And I don't know. I don't even remember where I was going with this.
But that's what's so weird about politics is she's only going to make it worse for the eventual candidate. Obviously,
but I'm fine with that in this case.
Right. Because it would enrage me to no end to stand up in front of my people and be like, hey, you guys, he barely won in 2016 and then lost. Like, why are we doing this?
And he's crazy.
Again?
He's also crazy. And he might be in jail.
Way crazier. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Credibly raped people. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons to say this guy's not good enough. But here's my question. If Nikki Haley somehow had miraculously won the nomination. Pick any of the possible scenarios. Trump dies, any of them.
Yeah.
Are you still checking the box for Biden in November right now, knowing what you know today?
No, I that definitely takes a thought. And I think she would have had a legitimate shot at beating him.
I think
Like,
she would have.
honestly, because the Trump people don't have to. The Trump people, like, basically you get win-win, because all the Trump people can say, "Oh, it's all rigged," but obviously I'm going to vote for a Republican and not a Democrat, and so
Right.
they're going to fall in line. And
Yep.
then you invigorate, your moderates and your independents.
You did,
If
and there's
can,
more independents now than there are Republicans or Democrats in the country.
especially if she gets to start like spewing the non-crazy Republican stuff, like, in your Mays or your Junes, when she gets to convert to human person from Republican.
Well, but here's what's
primary person.
funny. Here's what's funny. That doesn't even have to happen anymore, Kris, because they hardly talk about policy. No one cares about
Right.
policy.
Just
When you
those,
love Donald Trump, it's just it's just these platitudes that, like, no one's really. I mean, now there were actually some good policy debates. I just don't think the Republican electorate cares about them at all. But you're right. I mean, to me, it's like the fresh face thing. People really don't want Biden or Trump. So I think if either one of them got replaced, the other person would win on either side. I think if they somehow replaced Biden, that person would win almost no matter what. I mean, as long as it wasn't like Bernie Sanders, they would win. And on the right, it's kind of the same thing. If it's Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, pick them. I think they beat
riddle me
Biden.
this. So is there anything stopping? Well, I don't know who's even in charge. You can't just stop the primary process now and be like, "Hey, we changed our mind. We're just picking Haley." Like,
you could
has to go on, right? But you can, right? There's no law.
I think they can. I think the Republican Party, Democrats could do whatever they want. Technically, now I think the only problem I say that there are a lot of state laws now that like protect them from doing stuff, but most of them are just to like prevent other parties. Like, that's why it's so hard to get on the ballot as a third party, is because the Democrats and Republicans have basically, they don't want a third party coming in. They want the duopoly. It's very, very good. I mean, it's as good as it can be, although not really. They're very weak. I think both of the parties, but the point is they certainly don't. I think they would get toppled pretty quickly if it was easy so there are some state rules and stuff. So I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't be a nightmare, but I think it's possible. I would love to talk to someone that actually knows that answer to that question, but I think it's possible. But I don't see, no one's going to do that. They're just going to go, well, we're just going to have to hold our nose and hope they win. And then if they don't, thank God we get a reset button in 4 years, no matter what. Both sides get to say that. Yeah. And that's what like Nikki Haley's doing. That's what Tim Scott's doing. That's what everyone that's kind of going to vie for that VP job is going to do. They're like, because if it probably will be that whoever is the vice president, if Trump wins, would be the front runner, will like be the person that would potentially take that mantle in 2028. My fear is that like, I don't think Trump's going to win. I think that Biden has to do something crazy, something.
Still his to lose, but
it's his to lose. Yeah. But I think he could. But I don't think Trump's going to do himself any favors, because his campaign cannot be good enough to shut him up. They can't. And the criminal trials are going to be going on. Potentially, he could get convicted before then. Like, people are going to be paying attention. Like his
Georgia
social
post start getting crazy here soon.
I think Georgia might be. Now that there's all sorts of drama there. The prosecutor was like having an affair with the guy that she put on the legal team to prosecute, and so
Fani Willis.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So, that I think that one's
people have time to have affairs. Like, I don't have a job as important as prosecutor. I don't think I could fit it into the schedule.
I don't. Yeah. How could you?
God, I'm just an IT guy.
Yeah.
When would I have the time?
When would I? Yeah. And so I think that one's, but I mean, I think the documents one and I think the federal stuff is like very serious and very solid. And I think that he's not doing himself any favors I don't know if you heard his lawyers like arguing the other day that Trump, their argument is that you can't take this to trial because presidents are immune of any crime, no matter what they want to do.
Oh, right.
While they're president. Yeah. That's the argument they're saying. So like the legit thing was like, so if a president ordered SEAL Team 6 to murder their opposition, they couldn't be prosecuted for it. They're like, yes, not unless he's impeached and convicted in the Senate. And I'm like, that's the legal argument, which a lot of people don't understand that was the problem with Citizens United. Everyone's anti-Citizens United, except once they realized that the government was arguing to the Supreme Court, they asked them like, so you think we would be able to ban a book if it had a political endorsement in it in the months leading up to an election? And the government was like, yes. And the Supreme Court was like, we're not comfortable with you saying the government can ban books because it's political speech. That's really what it all boiled down to. It's like, because that's what the government was arguing. And this is a similar situation. It's like, you understand how crazy it sounds that you're arguing the president should be above the law no matter what he does, coming from a guy that has said he wants to do things that are illegal. Like I said, bad lawyers, but we'll see what happens. But that's just going to start being on TV now. Like that's like, we're going to get to see, now we won't get to see cameras. That's the only downside, is that if we don't see Georgia before the election, because the federal cases won't have cameras. I think it will really matter if the Georgia one could happen, just to see like the people that were involved in the stolen election nonsense have to get on the witness stand and say, I lied, or we lied about this and we fabricated this evidence and we lied about this and we lost this court case. And like, I think they need to see the people that did it. They need to see Rudy Giuliani and all these lawyers that are taking guilty pleas. They need to see all these people say, yeah, we lied to you. Now, I don't think that will change some of the MAGA people's minds, because I think they're lost. And at this point, I'm really not looking to try
moderates. Yeah, but you just chip away at moderates. And
well, I think there's like at least
or get
2/3.
Some people to stay home.
Yeah, I think there's 2/3 of Republicans realistically that if they could see those details would go, yeah, I'm done with this. And they'd either stay home. They might not vote for Biden, but enough of them would stay home that it would make a difference.
Yeah. Democrats either need them to vote for Biden or stay home. Both.
Yeah, the problem is Biden's got the same problem.
Or vote for RFK.
Right, but it's like, who is he going to pull votes from? Because he's kind of a lunatic.
100%.
I think he's pulling more votes from Trump than Biden. That would be my guess.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
I think you're totally right, because he's gone fringy. Stuff. Yeah. Oh, that and his crazy conspiracy theories, and he's an absolute lunatic. But like, that's just right at home in MAGA land.
I don't know. Like, it's so odd to me. I used to listen to a very liberal podcast called Ring of Fire, like in the mid aughts, and he was on there, and now I'm just like, dude, taking quite a turn.
Well, but don't you feel like that?
But he found a voice.
Well, that's what it is. It's just like entertainment, which is like
exactly
the reason I started this thing was because I'm so tired of that stuff. And it's like, I feel like you should be able to call out your own side, or you should be able to just like say, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't have to take this guy's side. It's not like, this is not a team sport as much as we've turned it into one. But yeah, I just don't. So good luck. We'll see what happens in 2024. We should make like we should like post predictions. We should come up with a form of, maybe we should do that as a thought experiment. Write down all the crazy things that could happen. And then in November, we can revisit and say,
oh, that's a good idea.
Which one of them did anything happen? Because I think that we would absolutely, something crazy like that we would all define as crazy will happen that we wouldn't possibly predict right now.
Okay, so we got to come up with, let's say, 5 crazy scenarios.
Yeah.
We'll write them down.
Maybe even 10
in an envelope.
Yeah. And we'll see what happens. Okay. We'll work on that off the podcast. We'll do another one sometime. All right. Well, that's it for us. Thanks for letting us ramble about politics for like an hour or more. And South Carolina's next. I bet Haley's out before then. So it looks like we've got Trump and Biden. So now it's like, what do? We get to flesh out all this stuff. And you, the voters, get to figure out what you want to do between these two terrible, terrible choices. It's like, why? Like, why? All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Kris.
Yeah.